the back of his head. It's an enlargement of his sinus passages. It's hollow. And it's connected to his nasal passages. They call him the hollow-headed dinosaur. Even T-Rex had a head the size of a Volkswagen and a brain the size of a baseball. The rest of it's full of plumbing connected to his sinuses. Which means if he stored chemicals up there, he could spray them out his nose or mouth at will. Or at anybody. It wouldn't have to be will. But he could spray them out. And it could have been a fire-breathing dragon. It is chemically possible. It is anatomically possible. Historically, certainly something happened. Because there's an awful lot of history. And the Bible says there was one. Now, those are my 4 reasons. If you got reasons you don't believe in it, I'd be glad to hear them. Next verse says, when he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid. Like that guy in Jurassic Park. Doesn't matter how big and strong you are, you'll be terrified when he comes after you. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. You can't scare him with your spear. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. People say, no, hold it, Brother Hovind. He lives in the water. Psalm 27, I believe it is, talks about Leviathan in the water. Several verses talk about him in the water. I understand that. I've read all those verses. But, folks, it doesn't do any good to breathe fire under water. Probably the critter could go on land or water. A lot of animals do that. I would bet if you were 24 feet tall, weighed about 15 tons, had a head the size of a Volkswagen, and you could breathe fire, you could go wherever you wanted. Right? So I think he could go on land or water. Next verse says, he maketh the path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon earth there is not his like who is made without fear. He's not afraid of anything. You don't need to be when you're that big. Right? He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. Chapter 42. Job answered the Lord. Finally, Job's going to say something. It's been 4 chapters. God asked Job 84 questions, showed him Behemoth and Leviathan, and God is done talking. Last thing God said was this verse right here. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. God's done. Conversation over, Job. Why did God leave Job with that thought right there? I think it's because this is the problem Job had all along. Job was a good, godly man, but he was proud. Same problem a lot of us have, folks. Maybe you're good, maybe you're smart, maybe you're rich, maybe you're proud. God hates pride. The Bible talks a lot about that. In the book of Ezekiel, it tells us the 4 things that cause pride. This is dealing with Satan in this passage. The devil is saying, well, the Lord is talking about the devil. He said, thou hast said, thy heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God. Ooh, this guy's got some power. First thing that causes pride is power. People in a position of power often get proud. This is me a couple years ago before I got sick. Actually not. But have you ever noticed the bodybuilders? It looks like they walk around like this, you know, like they picked up the hairspray instead of the deodorant. I taught school 15 years, man. You always get the football players. They come sit down in class, and they got their sleeve rolled up 5 or 6 notches, you know, and they sit down there and say, teacher, I got a question. No, you don't. Man, you're just trying to flex and show everybody. Now, there's nothing wrong with power, nothing wrong with muscles, but there's something wrong with pride. See, if God gave you big muscles, yay, wonderful. Don't get proud and haughty and cocky about it. Use them for the Lord. I remember we had a guy in our church in Texas named Darrell Bowie. He was the Texas powerlift champion. 740 pounds in the powerlift he lifted. Darrell was a friend of mine. I make friends with people like that. I performed the wedding when he and his wife got married. He was a black guy, went to our church in Texas. I ran the chapel in Tyler, Texas. We had about 300 black kids that came to church every Sunday afternoon. We drove the bus over there, picked them up, brought them to the gymnasium, and had church services for them. And so I did that for years in Tyler, Texas. And I said, Darrell, hey, since you're black, and I'm white, and these kids are all black, you'd be a good role model. Why don't you come and do some weightlifting and share your testimony? He said, that'd be great, Brother Hovind, I'd be glad to. He said, you get all the weights you can find in the school, bring them into the gym, and I'll come lift some weights and share my testimony. So we worked and passed out flyers, and it was a big bus promotion, you know, Darrell Bowie, Texas powerlift champion, coming to the Tyler gym. And we had the place packed full of kids that day. Darrell walked in with his suit kind of stretched over all them big muscles, you know. And he walked over and said, Brother Hovind, how much did you get? I said, Darrell, we got all the weights out of the high school. We got 390 pounds. He said, 390? Is that all? I said, is that all? What do you mean, is that all? It took 10 of us to carry it in here. He said, well, put it on. I said, put all of it on the bar at one time? Want to break something? He said, no, man, I won't need to take my suit coat off for this. He laid down and bench pressed 390 20 times like it was a toy. Just he jumped up off the bench, and those kids went. And then he said, all right, how many of you would like to see Brother Hovind do this? Of course, you know what the kid said. Yay, let's go, Brother Hovind. Well, I couldn't disappoint him. I laid down and did it 30 times. Actually, I did lay down. And I pushed on that bar hard. I don't think the bar knew I was pushing on it, because I couldn't get it up off the yoke. If I would have, it would have killed me on the way back down. Now, there's nothing wrong with muscles, but there's something wrong with pride. God hates pride. Same thing happens when the boys turn 14 or 15 and they finally get that first hair to grow on their chest. They're so proud of it. They always leave their shirt unbuttoned way down to here. They got a little hairspray, a little ribbon tied around it, and the sign says, hair. It's 40 below zero. They're walking around outside, you know. Somebody says, aren't you cold? I'm freezing. Well, button your shirt. Oh, man, if I button my shirt, they wouldn't see. They wouldn't see what? This hair right here. See this thing? Oh, here, I'll get it for you. Oh, you just wrecked his whole life, man. He's been working 14 years trying to grow that thing. You yanked it out, roots and all. I remember when I was going to college, Midwestern Baptist College, Dr. Tom Malone, Pontiac, Michigan. A bunch of the guys in the school decided, hey, let's grow a mustache. Kind of a fad, you know. We get around in the dorm, hey, you're going to grow a mustache?